Can you tell us how you got into the luxury watch reselling business?
So growing up, I wasn't really good in school. Like there wasn't. I mean, I did well in school, but I wasn't like a studious kid. I didn't. I found school kind of boring. But the one thing I know, like I'm pretty social, and I'm good at like meeting new people. So what happened was, out of college, I took a job locally for like a trade show organizer. From there, that trade show organizer did like Hong Kong shows, which is like the premier thing for jewelry and watches at the time. That's where I met the family that trained me, and I worked for this family business for the 10 years. They taught me everything, and I was very fortunate and very lucky to work under them. And they're a very big powerhouse in this industry. Long story short, 2021, I decided to come home, and the opportunity came where I could open this my own business, and that's where I came up with Reference in Time. And now it's 2024, and this past 3 years has been everything I dreamed of and more. You know, it's incredible how far I was able to take this, and with the help of my wife, she's been a rock and a support. This business is very, very naughty. It's very, very difficult. It's not for the faint of heart. You're dealing with a lot of like high ticket items, you know, with a lot of small margins. It's all about like volume and how fast and how many pieces you can trade, because you really make money on each transaction. It's not about how much you can get somebody, because especially today, there's so much information and data out there. You can just Google something and you can figure out what the price of that item is.
So, how old were you when you started in the business, and how old are you now?
So when I first started, I was 25. Today, I'm 37. So I've been doing this for 12 years, going on 13. It's been a very long journey, I would say. Well, long journey in a matter of years, but I've experienced a lot, and it's actually kind of flew by. Like they always say, time goes by when you're having fun, right? I always say this for anybody who's trying to come into this business: you have to have the passion. If you don't have the passion for watch collecting or understanding watches and why certain things are the way they are, you'll never appreciate this, and this will get very boring quick, and you're really doing it all for the wrong reasons. Yeah, like there's a lot of money involved in this business, but you have to really understand like history of watchmaking, why certain brands are the way they are, what the trends are currently, and what possibly the future can bring.
What ignited your passion for watches in the first place?
It's funny, when I first, so I always say this, like from my background, you know, I grew up with very little, like it's like my family, you know, are immigrants that came to the US in the 80s. I grew up in Flushing, Queens. We didn't have much. It was really a big shock to my core when it first started this. Like, I was like, wait, people spend $50,000 on watches? Like, this is absolutely insane. People are spending people's annual salaries on their wrists. It just like blew my mind, you know? Once you get over that shock the first couple of weeks, then you start understanding. It's like, wow, like there's a whole new appreciation of what it takes to make this stuff, the history behind it, why it was first introduced. Today though, like it's more, I would say, like it's a commemorative piece. Generally, the most ideal situation of why you should buy a watch is to really celebrate. Like, I think that's really the real reason, I believe, in my opinion, that you should be buying a watch for.
Can you share any interesting stories or anecdotes from your business within the last few years?
When you're dealing with these very expensive and high value items, like you're gonna meet a lot of interesting characters. You meet people from all walks of life, and you hear their stories, their success stories usually, or you know, their downfalls. You know, I've been doing this enough where you see what happened over time. This business is easy to get into. Like the ego is like a big thing in our business, obviously, right? Because you're buying very expensive things, you're collecting very expensive things, and it creates an ego because there's a sense of pride when it comes to collecting. Also, the same thing with people, my peers, and like in our business, watch dealers. Like a lot of times, these guys have huge egos because you know you sell $100,000 items, and you know it gets to your head for sure. And the people who are buying it, they also have huge egos. I always say this, like, do not become your customer. you're not your customer. Sometimes you deal with billionaires and like they're living such lavish lifestyles, like in a sense where they have 300-foot yachts. These yachts, it takes like 20 people to staff them, you know? That alone, if you were able to see that, like, wow, people actually live like this, and then you go into like a billionaire's yacht, let's say, that gets to your head for sure. And like it's definitely a culture shock when like, especially when you're first in this business, like you have no idea how the other side of the world lives, or this high echelon of people live. It's like kind of wild, you know? But my point is that don't feed into the nonsense, because at the end of the day, like, we're just servicing the clients. I've definitely seen a lot of stuff where like you see guys that used to be top of the game like 7-8 years ago, today like they have nothing to show for it, and it's really kind of pathetic, you know, because they blew all the money they spent. Like, you know, business is not just ebbs and flows. Like, there's times where it's super great. Like during COVID, like there's a huge crazy run because everyone and their moms wanted to buy a Rolex, or they wanted to buy a wristwatch, you know, a luxury watch. And today, like, the demand is not like there compared to before. That was not sustainable. And if you fed into the bullshit and decide to buy the biggest house, the nicest cars, again, it's not sustainable. It's just like, you have to like really keep your head leveled.
These watches are more to commemorate things. Like, so what are some like events that you've had to help your customers like acquire for like?
So I'll give you like extreme examples, right? I also do engagement rings, let's say, or like wedding gifts. Like, it's very common to like, for especially amongst like the Asian community, they usually want like a his or her set for a wedding, like as a gift. Like the groom would get like a male version, and the bride would get a female version. And I also do like engagement rings prior to the wedding, right? So I'll do engagement rings for friends and family generally. I don't advertise it. There's an instance where like a good friend of mine, I literally told my friend, it's like, yo, can you please give me like a month or like 2 weeks at least to like prepare? This kid called me literally the day before he wanted, like, no, 2 days before he wanted to propose. He planned this whole like thing of like going, you know, like upstate, and like he had a whole plan of like how to propose and everything. This kid literally called me 2 days before and it's like, yo, I need a diamond ring now. And luckily, like, I have a lot of resources and I know a lot of people where I made a few phone calls and I made it happen. But like, it's like, people always do things last minute. It's insane. Like, even at this level, like how did you forget that you're spending 5 digits on something, and like how did that like not come into your head like on your checklist to do something? I'm very fortunate where like I figure it out.
So you've been in this business for a while. How have you seen it evolve from when you first started and now?
So when I first started, the people who were actually buying watches were really buying them to wear, or they were collecting certain pieces to put away and stuff like that. Everyone correlates in 2017, that big event of the auction price where Paul Newman watch brought like 17 plus million or whatever. That was the moment that everything kind of broke out. And that's where the headlines everywhere, CNN, New York Times, whatever, all the major headlines just kept publishing that like, this watch brought a world record price of 17 million, so-and-so. It went viral basically. Like that was like before like social media was like such a big thing. And that moment kind of like elevated the whole watch scene. And then fast forward, COVID really, like, I think the fact that everyone was home and like on their phones all the time, the algorithm like hit hard, because the demand for watches was absolutely insane, and the supply for stuff was so low because they had production issues and stuff like that. So it absolutely propelled the market to like a whole nother stratosphere. For example, like today, like the super desired pieces are really the Aquanauts, you know, the Nautiluses, Royal Oaks. Those models were always, when I first started, were always below retail. Like, that's something you can walk in the store and they're readily available. I always say this about luxury goods. People don't want what they can readily get. The fact that it's not readily available makes them want it even more. It's a whole psychological thing.
As it stands now, you have 1.3 million views on your YouTube channel that just started. How did that come about and what brought your interest into social media?
I am super blessed and I'm really shocked that I can reach such a big audience. I said this to my friends the other day. I'm pretty shocked that like people are interested in what I have to say. I've always been a very private person. Even on my personal page, I've never posted a story about myself. Like that's not like that's something I don't do. Like I'm not trying to tell like the world like, hey, I'm doing this. You know, like I'm not trying to flex on people. Like that's not part of my DNA. The whole point of social media today and why I'm trying to do it and why I hired you guys as a team is that I see the value in it today. Where the consumer now, the audience, it's really males from 25 to 55. And what are they doing? They're on social media all day. So I really have to cater to that audience. Like today, if I don't move forward and try to build a digital footprint, I think it's to my detriment for sure.
Is there any other goals you have within this niche?
So it's not just within the community. I think the whole basis of it is that with watch trading and like me providing, me sourcing a piece or me selling something that we have in our inventory, the whole purpose of it is this kind of gain trust to show that like, hey, we're the real deal. I've been doing this for a while. We've been around for a while. You know, like we actually have inventory where like a lot of people are just brokering stuff. Which is fine, but we actually have the physical inventory. You can come to our showroom, you could come try out the pieces, you could come see it in the flesh. And I think like that's something that nobody knows really. Like we have a lot of pieces to try on and we don't promote it so no one comes up to our office or our shop to kind of see what we have in the store. And I think that's something I have to work on for sure. I think so. There's a few goals that I want to accomplish, right? One is like kind of putting my name out there. What my opinions on like watches, my opinions on like certain things that people are doing, my opinions on like what the trends are, what the future holds, what I feel like is worth collecting, let's say, or like kind of like what I feel is like completely stupid hype. And I feel like I called for example, like the biggest trending thing this year is like the Tudor pink chrono, and I was like, this is the most bullshit thing ever. People were paying 25,000 when it first came out. Today, you can find that watch for like 8,000. The retail on that thing is like I think like 5 or 6,000 or whatever, and they were like promoting it so hard. It was the biggest scam out there, I feel. But it's like to educate people so like they don't fall into these traps, because like somebody who buys a watch like that for like 25,000, they're not gonna want to come back. It's like you ruined them for life, and I would hate to see that. Another thing is I want to like put positive vibes out there too. Like this is not like it's not watch collecting and buying watches. It's not just for flexing. The message that's kind of been promoted like hardcore. It's like you should be doing it for yourself, not to like be like, yo, I spent this much money on this watch, dude. Like you're poor, kind of like, dude, that's like so whack. That's so lame. You should be doing it because you set goals and you strive for them and you achieve them. That's simple as that.